Carmai's journey, from abandonment to redemption. Carmai was cruelly discarded, treated like a worthless object, and left to die in a hostile and toxic environment. Her fate seemed sealed when she was abandoned in a chemical lagoon inside a landfill, a place where industrial waste accumulated, contaminating everything around her. Prolonged exposure to these chemicals caused serious injuries to her body. Her previously healthy skin was covered in painful burns and deep bruises, the result of both contact with corrosive substances and the mistreatment she had probably suffered before being left there. With no one to help her, Carmai wandered among the rubble in search of any scraps of food. Her only option was to rummage through the trash, fighting with rats and insects for discarded crumbs. At night, she huddled among the waste, trying to protect herself from the cold and humidity. Her body was getting weaker and weaker, and her resistance was decreasing with each passing day. Despite everything, there was something in her eyes that still shone, a spark of hope, a silent cry for help. When we found Carmai, it became clear that her situation was even more delicate than we had imagined. In addition to being severely weakened, malnourished, and injured, she was pregnant and about to give birth. Her condition was critical, and any complication could cost her life and that of her puppies. Even though she was in obvious pain, her tail moved slowly, and she looked at us as if she were begging, "Please save my babies." A race against time. We knew we couldn't waste a single minute. Carmai was immediately taken to the vet for a full evaluation. The tests confirmed that her condition was extremely serious. Severe anemia. Her red blood cell levels were dangerously low, compromising the transport of oxygen to her vital organs. Blood infection. Prolonged exposure to toxic substances had triggered an intense inflammatory process, significantly increasing her white blood cell count. Kidney disease. Her tests showed alarmingly high BUN levels, suggesting that her kidneys were compromised, possibly due to drinking contaminated water. Extreme malnutrition. Carmai was visibly underweight, with her ribs and bones exposed, the result of days or even weeks without adequate nutrition. External injuries. In addition to the chemical burns, there were signs of infection in her ears, which gave off a strong and unpleasant odor. Her claws were overgrown, indicating that she had not received care for a long time. Faced with this alarming situation, the veterinary team began intensive treatment to stabilize her. She was given intravenous fluids to combat extreme dehydration, antibiotics to contain the infection, nutritional supplements to strengthen her body, and medications to relieve the pain caused by her injuries. Even in the face of so many difficulties, Carmai demonstrated impressive strength. Her eyes, previously dull with suffering, began to reflect new hope. The decisive moment. After 7 days in intensive care, Carmai showed significant improvement. Her breathing was more stable, her eyes were more lively, and her posture was no longer one of total exhaustion. At that moment, the veterinarians determined that she was strong enough to leave the clinic and continue her recovery in a more welcoming environment. Then something extraordinary happened. Just 3 days after leaving the hospital, Carmai went into labor. Her body, which had been so punished, gathered the strength to give birth to 4 healthy puppies. Each of them was a small miracle, the result of their mother's tireless resistance. A new chance for everyone. The puppies grew strong and were adopted by responsible families, ensuring them a safe and loving future. In the meantime, Carmai underwent an impressive transformation. Her weight gradually increased, her fur grew back, and her wounds healed. But the biggest change was not just physical. The dog who had once lived in absolute abandonment now knew the meaning of love and affection. Her behavior, previously marked by distrust and fear, completely transformed. Her tail, which had barely moved when she was rescued, now wagged with excitement. Her eyes, previously dark and sad, now shone with happiness. Carmai was given a new home, a safe space where she would no longer have to worry about hunger, cold, or loneliness. She finally knew what it meant to be cared for and loved. An example of overcoming and hope. Carmai's story is not just a rescue story, but a powerful reminder that Every animal deserves dignity, respect, and a second chance. Her suffering was caused by the